So if you haven't heard about it, Valheim is a new early access game on Steam. It's one of the fastest growing games on Steam right now, and it's provided our little group some of the best multiplayer experiences we've had all year, outside of Ultimate Chicken Horse. It's a door! It's a door! I rotated a door! But at first glance, it's not really easy to see why. And as a longtime Final Fantasy XI fan that sees glimmers of that game in this, I'm going to tell you why. Now look, this isn't a review. I'm not saying you should go buy the game right now. It's $20, it's early access, it's a survival game. I mean, we've been here before, right? Whether or not that's something that's for you is totally up to you, and whether or not you want to deal with the rough edges that come with an early access game. I totally understand. But even if you don't buy it right now, it's still something to keep an eye on. We were playing it all week on Twitch. Speaking of which, if you didn't know, we stream every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Definitely come by and let me know your thoughts on Valheim or other games like it. We've been having a blast. Final Fantasy XI hooked most of its players within the first few hours, and if not then, I will definitely say within the first week. There's just something magical about stepping out into a threatening wilderness with practically nothing and just slowly, piece by piece, building yourself up into something that's capable of surviving that. Now in Final Fantasy XI, the threatening environment was mostly because of the dangerous enemies that could approach you in different ways through sound or sight or smell. Seriously, did a single enemy aggro by smell? I would love to know if there was one. That would be amazing. But seriously, in 11, this was all maintained through gear, skills, spells, levels that you'd gain, all these ways that your character progresses as you worm your way into Vana'diel, inch by inch. In Valheim, as with many survival games, that progress is in slightly more subtle ways. Look, anybody familiar with the survival genre is going to find a lot to recognize here. I mean, there's threatening environmental hazards, there's enemies, there's, upgrades to your equipment that you can gather, different ways to harvest materials to then do crafting. You can build yourself fortifications or a base, the usual stuff. You've got to earn those first few tools. At first, all you've got is your fists, and you go and you punch trees. So, I don't know if you guys have played Ark, but Ark was the first game that I encountered this tree punching mechanic, and I went to do it in this game. Forewarning, your fists are not strong enough to fell massive trees. Shocking, I know. There are twigs and smaller trees that you're supposed to go after first, but at first I was just like wailing on this huge tree, and you can see like zero. I'm like, I don't think I'm doing anything, nothing's happening. So yeah, you have to go after small things. Anyways, you have to build up those tools from nothing. You've got to find a rock and a stick, and you put it together, and then you've got, what would you call that, a hatchet? I'm not sure, a stick rock? But point is, then you use that to fell larger trees and get more wood, and you can craft different things, and on we go. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Finding shelter early on is critical, because the world of Valheim, where you're present, is itself a danger to you. As it starts to get dark, you start to get cold, and you're hungry, and you can't see anything. You start realizing that like everything around you is incredibly dangerous. It doesn't have to be an enemy. It just could be the fact that you don't have a place to stay. Daytime, nighttime, whatever, as you're traveling through these dense forests, you'll think you're fine and alone, and then all of a sudden you come through a clearing and there's a bunch of enemies that were just hidden behind the trees. It's very dangerous. Early on, you recognize that you are the weakest link right now. But that's part of the magic. We talk about with Final Fantasy XI all the time that the danger was part of what made it feel so great, because when you overcome that danger, you feel that gain in strength. You're the threat now. You're locked in here with me. You can see and feel your progress in your equipment, in the way that you can approach the world with your new tools, what you can gather, how fast you can gather. All of that comes together into this tangible progress that is difficult in other games to express. One thing that I loved about 11 is that whenever I came back, I could see the progress I made, purely, if nothing else, in the numbers. When you look at your job list, you're like, yes, 35, 50, 70, 75, 63. Like, you'd see the levels that you'd gained, the skills that you'd earned throughout leveling those jobs, and especially, of course, the gear, equipment, and spells. that your character had gathered over time, like that was always still there. You could never really lose it. The gear, I guess, yeah, but it was all tangible, persistent growth. Valheim has that as well, but it takes it a step further because unlike 11, the world itself is a tangible thing that can grow and change, and you can shape it to your will. And because the world is persistent with your changes, you see the growth not only in your own character, but in the environment as you shape it. Building up encampments, bases, farms, whatever you may do, it's cool to come back day after day and be like, ah yeah, my tower. And then eventually you'll find a reason that you want to move on and go somewhere else. But you come back, you for whatever reason have to go back, and then you see your old like crappy encampment and you're like, wow, look how far we've come. That thing can barely stand. It's just cool to see those structures, new and old, waiting over the next hill. You feel like you're actually shaping the world around you, not just your own character, but the game itself, which few games outside of the survival genre allow you to really do at a significant level. And while you modify and shape that world, there's always mysteries on the next horizon that you can discover, because it's not just your own creations, but long destroyed creations that are just in the game. And it constantly asks these questions of like, well, who built this? Is it tied to any of the other games out there? Is it purely random? It's probably just developers adding in a broken house somewhere, but it's a really cool effect of mystery. Like, what am I going to find over the next hill that'll then shape how I explore the world from there? Because we thought we had the best spot ever by this huge open field, and then hours, days later, found this spot down by the river or the ocean, whatever it is. I don't know. I can't tell how big the body of water might be. And it was way better. And there was like a broken down castle that was there. And we're like, well, why don't we build around this thing? And it's awesome. It's just that constant effect of like, I want to go explore there. And as you try to do that, you realize you're too weak to face the new challenges that are over there. So you come back, you build yourself up, then you go there. And then when you're there, you're like, oh wait, even better spot. Let's build up here. It's just this constant looping feeling of exploration and building up your resources. And it's just fun. And just as a side note, usually that water that I mentioned is a wall, a blocker in terms of the progression and exploration that you can have. It's a constant, it's an old gaming trick where it's like surrounding yourself with you're in a valley and you just have huge cliff walls on either side. If there's an ocean, usually in games that means, okay, there's your boundary, there's the limit of where you can explore, turn and go in a different direction. But in Valheim, it's just another challenge to overcome. You can have rafts, and I'm hoping someday like whole Viking longboats. That would be amazing. But again, I'm getting too far. Just like the exploration, it reminds me of those feelings I used to get playing 11, where I'm always just like, is there a notorious monster over there? Is there something dangerous? Is there something amazing? Is there a new camp where we could like get better access to resources that we previously had to kind of travel pretty far to get to, and then we can build up around there? It's tied into the same kind of feelings, even though it's slightly different gameplay mechanics. I mean, for us, the game hooked us as soon as we understood the gear progression and a reason to want it. So, like, we're starting out and we're starting to get a couple pieces of gear, but we didn't know what you could do with it. So you can upgrade equipment, just making it, a better club, tier 2 club, tier 3 club, etc., as well as getting better equipment, like a spear versus a club. None of that mattered until we encountered a troll. We'd been fighting crappy things that took a few hits to kill, and they were only really dangerous in numbers. Well, occasionally we'd start to encounter those numbers, and that got a little bit more risky, but then we found a troll, which totally one-shot basically any of us, and we just had to kill this troll, like, we needed to. So we spent hours building up a fortification that was far enough away from the troll so it didn't destroy it, long story there, and just making ourselves strong enough, hopefully, to be able to take down this troll, which we did, and it was amazing. And it reminded me of all those times where we heard of a boss fight that had amazing rewards in Final Fantasy XI, and we leveled up and we got better gear until we felt like we were strong enough to go after it, and then we beat it down. Yes, it is different, but it's the same stuff inside. And this is where a lot of you might be saying, like, dude, survival games are awesome, where have you been? But I just constantly find myself saying they have that in this game. Like, there are essentially quests with dungeons and boss fights that we haven't even gotten to yet. I have no idea what they entail, but it's fantastic. We encountered an enemy shaman casting spells. I didn't know there was spell casting. Can I learn spell casting? Probably not, but that would be incredible. Each step into Valheim offers new opportunities to grow and get better, and new challenges that tempt you to want to be better. It's something that a lot of games have struggled with in the past. They've got great growth and you keep getting stronger and stronger. And I always struggle with games like Path of Exile or Black Desert Online, where there comes a point where you're just so strong and there's nothing stronger. So what am I getting better for? To become slightly more efficient, to be a little bit better. And that's what this game has, at least so far. There's always a new challenge on the new horizon, some new place I want to explore that I can't quite handle, and reasons for me to get better. And we haven't even introduced like PvP elements or other players messing with us. I haven't even got to that. You just always want to explore the next horizon. Speaking of which is beautiful. The horizons are beautiful because the game is done so well and artistically. Look, despite the Metal Gear Solid 1 textures, which I seriously, I cannot think of a game that represents the texture quality better than Metal Gear Solid 1. It's literally PlayStation 1 style textures. The character models too remind me a lot of Snake. I don't know what's going on there. But the graphics outside of those textures, or maybe even because of them, are so stunningly charming. Lighting and atmosphere are used to amazing effect. There's beautiful depth of field, so you'll see misty mornings and dangerous thunderclouds and rainstorms that totally wipe out an entire day of progress as you're just kind of like stuck inside so you don't get wet. Light filters through the trees believably. It just looks awesome. But you look at it closely and you're like, it shouldn't look good, but it does. It looks so good. So this has certainly sparked an interest for me in survival games in the genre. But how about you? Are you already checking it out? Are you already playing Valheim? What's it missing from other games in the genre, in survival games that you've played before that you wish was in it? Besides a brief foray into arc punching trees, like I mentioned, I haven't really delved much into these games, so I am excited to see what's deeper. But I don't know. Otherwise, guys, if you're new, subscribe for more videos like this. Definitely click that bell so you get notified when new videos go live. And otherwise, I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace. Go fire.
I've done it.
There you go.
Champ.
Finish. Fire.
I need fire. I feel cold. I must rest by the fire. Oh. How does one... Oh.
What just happened?
Epic walked up to the fire and died.